This is episode 1 of Learning Scratch. I've made a couple of Scratch games, and yeah, so this is just basically going to be a few-part tutorial about Scratch, and today we are going to be going over all the blocks, and we will even be taking a look at variables list and the my blocks, so that you can have an early start into these. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So one, it moves 10 steps. This one basically it moves this value in the direction that it's pointing. So like I go here, go like this, and then direction. Let's say I set it to here. It'll then start moving this way. So that's what that one does. And then instead of setting the direction like this, you can actually turn it like this, and then do that, and then this just turns the other way. That's the turn degrees. Go to random position. Does what it says. It just makes a sprite go to a random position, and you can also make it go to mouse pointer. And yeah, well, the mouse pointer's in the corner, so I can't. It's not really. But and also what this block does. Let's say I had another sprite, just like this, and the x and y of this right now is 0, 0. So if I go to sprite 2, which is the name of this, it goes to that, even though it doesn't look like it's that. The x and y of this is 0, 0. So it is going to there. Go to x, y block. This just, you can set an x position. Let's say I got 100, 150. This will go there. Negative 100, 150. It'll go there. And the x-axis is left to right. If you didn't know, but the x-axis is left to right, and the y-axis is up and down. So like that. So if we don't change that and we just make this 100 instead of 150, it goes down. And then there's glide 1 second, so to random position. About, let's say for now let's just keep it random position. It's the same as this one. It has all of the same things: random position, mouse pointer, and whatever sprites you have. And the 1 second, that value. So say I did this, it takes 1 second to get there no matter what. But let's say I made it like 0.5, it'll take 0.5 seconds to get there, to get wherever the random position is. And then there's glide 1 second to a set value, so this is like this, but instead of going to, you're gliding. And it does the same thing as the other one, it's just gliding to 80, whatever position you set it to for that amount of time. There's also the point and direction block, which instead of turning a certain amount, you can actually just set it directly. So like go like this, it goes negative 60, like that. Point towards something, so point towards mouse pointer or whatever sprite you have. The random direction one is something you're not going to get with regular Scratch. It's something you have to get with Scratch add-ons right here. You can download it, just search up Scratch add-ons. There'll be a whole bunch of other things. You might even notice I have cat blocks, and that comes from that. I kind of, when I'm coding, I sometimes get distracted by just doing this. Okay. Yeah, so if you want to do this, it points towards random direction. The alternative for this is if you don't want to install that add-on, so we're kind of going to the operator section, but the alternative for this would be negative 180, 180, and then this does the same thing, or actually it would be point and direction. The alternative for point and random direction would be this. This also points in a random direction. Just this makes it a little easier to understand and has less blocks. Okay, so these blocks, the change x by value block is kind of like the move 10 steps, except instead of going in the direction that it is facing, it just goes right, or if you make it a negative value, goes left. And then set x to, if you don't want to set x and y, you just want to set the x. Then you could set x to 0, that's the middle of the screen, and yeah. Change y, it does the exact same thing as the x, just a little different, going up and down. if on edge bounce, this is a really useful one, and I wish they would add one. I wish they would make another on other blocks that say if touching sprite bounce instead of just on edge. But let's say we put Scratch Cat onto the edge, we run this block, he then bounces off. So this is a good way to make your sprites not go off the edge. But there is also alternatives for making them not go off the edge, which are a little bit more reliable from this, considering this changes direction and all that stuff. The set rotation style, this is one that you're not going to use that much. So basically, if we set, here, we're going to grab a point and direction block 2 with this. We set rotation style to all around. By default, it's all around, and that means wherever we set it, it'll point there. But if we do it to, let's say, left and right, then it'll only go if it's on if the pointer is on this side of the wheel, then it'll go automatically go that way, even though it's not directly that way. If it's on this side of the wheel, like even if it's like this, it'll point in that direction. But if you actually just point in -90, you can actually see it flips the sprite upside down. So with the all around, so it's kind of useful for platformer games, and yeah. So don't rotate. It doesn't rotate. Yep. And then so here we're getting to our first variables, so we can show these, and basically, oh god, okay, that's kind of confusing, but sometimes you'll have decimals, all that poop. Just ignore that. So basically, as we change y, let's say change y by, or change x by -10, if we look at the x position right there, it says -12. We change it by -10, it becomes -22. And so basically it just shows the value of it. So you don't have to like count it using some other complicated stuff. And the same thing with the y position, and the direction just says the direction. And set this all around. So yeah, those are those. So motion category complete. I hope you understand the motion category now. We will now go on to looks. So these are a little more simple because they look like different things. So the say hello, say anything for a certain amount of time, say it just in general. You can think just regularly. You could switch it to a different costume. So like I switched to that costume because the Scratch Cat comes with 2 different costumes by default. You could switch from those costumes. We can go next costume, which is pretty useful for doing animations. But if you're doing really complicated animations, you might want to use some other variables, but we won't get into those yet. Switch backdrop to, switches the backdrop. Right now there's only one, but yeah. You could also do the next backdrop. Change size by, we can make it bigger, or if we make it a negative value, make it smaller. We can then set size to 200, or set size to like a really small value like 10, and make it really, really small. That's right now, I'll set it back to 100. The change color effect and set color effect too. It doesn't have to be always color effect, as you can see. It has all these that I'm not really going to go into. But the one you're really going to use is Ghost. Because this makes it, if you set this to 100, so let's go to Ghost. If we set, so right now 0 is completely visible. If we set Ghost to 100, it's invisible, but so that might that might make you think it's the exact same as a hide, when it's really not. The hide deactivates the sprite in all. If the set Ghost effect still keeps the sprite active without you actually being able to see it, so that's really good. Clearing graphic effects basically just clears all of that. So as you can see, we can change Ghost effect. We can, well, let's make it a little visible. We can change fish eye, like that. We can clear graphic effects, and we're all back to normal. Show, hide, you get it. Go to front layer. So right now, it's in front layer because it's good that we kept the sprite, because right now it's in front of sprite 2 here. If we go to back layer, see the green part moves in front of it. So that's what that's used for. And then you can go forward a certain amount of layers. If you have a bunch of clones or sprites and you want to do layering, then you can use this. This just shows the caution number. So right now we're in caution number 2. It shows 2 is another variable, backdrop number, and the size. Okay, so now we're going to go to sound, right? And we have play sound. So we can play a sound until done. The difference between these is if we keep pressing this, it's going to finish the sound because it's until done. If we start it, see, it doesn't really fully finish before we can click again. So that can be useful in different things. Let's say, see, we kind of cut it. Stop all sounds, basically. Oh god, let's not do that yet. Stop all sounds, basically, just cuts off the sound. So just done, all sounds done. Kind of like the clear graphic effects. Change pitch by or pan left right, which to this day I don't know what it does. Like, someone please tell me. What does this do? I have no idea. But pitch basically is how low or high it is. So like now it's really low. We set it to 100. It's really high. And yeah, those are those. And then clear sound effects clears the pitch, kind of also like the clear graphic effects or the stop all sounds. Change volume by -10. Basically it makes everything less loud, and you could set it to. You can also get the volume. These are not really that useful. You're not going to use them a lot. Now the events, things that start it all. When the green flag clicked, you see this a lot. Whenever the green flag is clicked, it runs whatever's under it. The when key press block, basically, whatever key, so I have add-ons again, so I can detect when these are pressed. Normally you can't. Like, normally you can't detect when any of these are pressed. So from the numbers to the letters and the up arrow key, and you can also, and enter, that's normal. I think you can detect that normally, I think. And then there's also any key pressed. But that's kind of not the way you could. I mean, there's some uses where this is useful, but in sensing, there's a better way to do it, and we'll get to that later. So, when the sprite clicked, when I clicked the sprite, when backdrop switches to whatever backdrop, this one's kind of useless. I don't know when you would use this, but when loudness and when timer greater than a certain number, these are not that useful unless you're doing some glitches, which are a few you can use with this block. I would recommend searching them up because some of them are pretty cool. When I receive message and broadcast message, so basically if I run this, so here, I'll give an example, so I'll just meow. So basically when I broadcast this is going to receive it and run what's under it. So every time I click this, it runs that, and yeah, like we could put this under a when green flag clicked, and then so this is not a when green flag clicked. When green flag clicked is just broadcasting the message, and this receives that and plays what's under it. There's also the broadcast and wait, which waits until the script is done. So rare that you're gonna use this. Like, sometimes you'll really need to do it, and it's like a lifesaver. But most of the time, you're never really gonna use this. I don't think I've ever used it, but okay. Wait 1 second. 2 seconds. 1, 2, off. Repeat 10, or repeat whatever value. I guess a good way to do this would be, it's like, this is whatever, it repeats whatever's inside of it 10 times. So basically, like, see, it turned 15 degrees 10 times. So, yeah, that does that. forever. Whatever's inside of it runs forever. That's where this is kind of where this comes into play, because we run this, it goes over and over again. But if we do the start sound, yeah, that happens. So forever, it basically just runs whatever's inside of it many times. If it checks if something, so let's create a variable, or actually, let's not do a variable. So as you can see, volume, let's grab in the operators, because you have to kind of use an operator for this. If volume, so this is volume, and it's 100 right now, we can see that. If volume is equal to 100, which it is, we could see that, and we could see that by clicking on it, true, because it is. We put that inside the if. This is a little bit complicated. We do this, it meows. If we say it's equal to like 97, it's not 97. This gives a false output, and we don't get a meow. So the if combined with the forever is really good, because you can forever check something. So that will come in use later. Okay, if else, so how would I represent this? Let's create two sounds. Surprise. Okay, so if volume, let's do the same example. If volume equal to 100, start sound high whoosh, which is, keep in mind this is, okay? And then else start sound meow. So right now it is equal to 100, so it's going to do the high whoosh. But if it's not equal to 100, let's say 98, it's going to meow, because it's else. If it's not that, then we're saying it's going to do this. So that's what that does. And now we have the wait until. So again, we're going to use the same, we're probably going to use that volume example again, because it's easy to understand. But volume equal to 100, wait until that. Right now, see, it runs immediately. So it's not really waiting at all. Like, let's start sound high whoosh. It's not really waiting at all. And then, but if we, let's say we think it's 97, that's going to keep waiting. We're not going to get that yet. But if we set volume to 97, boom, high whoosh happened. I don't know if you heard it. Here, let's wait. Let's wait until it's 100. Hear that? So it waited until it was 100, and then it did. So that's really useful. It's used in a lot of scenarios. Repeat until, we're going to use the same volume example here. So it's basically, let's say we set this to 99. So, okay, so it's really loud. Let's take that out for now. So so this is acting like a forever loop right now, as it's just keep going. But the thing is, you can deactivate it by, so it's 100 right now. This wants it to be 99. We set it to 99. Stops. So that's what that does. And then stop all. This stops everything. Clones get deleted. Everything. All the scripts just done. Stop this script. It stops. Let's say if I placed it in a script, it would stop the script that's in and stop other scripts in the sprite. It wouldn't stop this script or all of the scripts. It would just stop the scripts other than the one it is in. And a script is like just like a column of code. And now we get into clones. So clones are a little bit complicated. So like, let's say we create clone of myself right now, and then we, as the original sprite, move -10 steps. So now there's 2. But when we click the green flag, the clone is gone. So clones get deleted when the green flag is clicked. So we can also do when I start as a clone, like forever turn. So now if I go like this, I create clone. So think of the when I started a clone like a when green flag clicked, just for the clone. So it turns forever, but the original sprite doesn't. That's the turning one is the spinning one is the clone. This is the regular sprite. You can see that by the clone getting deleted when you press the green flag. And then delete the clone. If you run this like when the green flag is clicked, not under a when I started a clone, it'll delete all of the clones. But if you run it under when I started a clone, it'll only delete that clone. But these 3 blocks create this script. If you run this script, I'm not gonna because it'll cancel the recording. But if you want to, it will crash the tab. I will say it will crash the tab. If I clicked this, everything would crash. Done. If you want to do it, you can. It's just I'm letting you know it's going to crash. Okay, sensing. So this is where things get really interesting because now we're getting into the more technical stuff. Touching mouse pointer or touching anything. Basically this just checks, like, for example, if we're touching sprite 2, are we touching sprite 2 right now? Yes, we are, so we get a true. But let's say I move it over here, we're not touching it anymore. False. Touching a certain color, so let's pick this color. So right now we're not touching that, but if I drag it here, we are touching that. Color something is touching color something. This is more general. So like let's say I go there, color that is touching color that. True. But like if we do it like this, I'm not quite sure. I don't think. Okay, so that's still true. But yeah, so orange on the cat is touching green on that line, so that is true. Yeah. So, and also if you're wondering why my things are kind of like not like ghosty, but then when I place them in a script, like under an event, they turn regular. It's because it's just an add-on. When they're not under a script, they turn blank. Therefore, I can identify them easier. It's just a thing I use. Don't worry, it's not anything different. It doesn't make any effects. It's just, I don't know, more clear to me. Distance to. This is one you're not going to use a lot. But basically, let's say distance to sprite 2. It tells you the distance using the distance formula if you want to use that. Just search up on Google distance formula, put the math into Scratch using the operators, and then you should get the same results as this. This just does it for you. So yeah, you don't have to write because the distance formula is very complicated. It's like square root of x1 minus or x2 minus x1 plus y2 minus x1, I'm pretty sure, the square root of that. So, yeah. It's not great to run that in Scratch because it's just really complicated. So that's why that's there. Ask, this actually puts a little pop-up bar. And so basically we can go. So that really did nothing. But if we look at the answer, we answered. So if we open answer, that's what we answered. So that can be used for like quiz games and stuff like that. This is where I was talking about with the sensing earlier compared to this, because I'm going to do a quick comparison. And these are all, and I'm going to do it with all blocks we've learned so far. Boom. If key space pressed. Change Y by 10. Repeat 10. Repeat 10. Change Y by negative 10. So, this is a little bit complex, but it's all stuff we've learned, so it shouldn't be too hard. So, if the key space is pressed, which I'm about to do right now, I'm making it really loud so you can hear when I do it. It kind of gives a jumping motion by going up and then down. Um, yeah. Basically, this isn't really a good example, but let's say, okay, move 10 steps. You can see it's very smooth. Here, let's grab a negative 200 here, and then we'll add that. It's very smooth, okay? Let's say I go like this and just have move 10 steps without the forever and the if. This is what happens if I take this out, and I'm just working with this, which is a lot less complicated, but look what happens. It's very fidgety and not very smooth. Whereas if we put this in and we get rid of this, butter. Look at that. That's a very cool thing that you can do with that. That's used for a lot of controls. So mouse down. This shows when the mouse is down. Right now it's false, even though I need to press it to read the value, but it only reads it when it's up, so this will always be false. But if I do not, which basically inverts the value, so like this is false, it's now true. So like I'll do the same example with the volume. We're kind of getting off topic here, but bear with me. Volume equal to 99. That's true, right? If we put it into the not, it's going to invert it and become false, right? Right now, so let's say we make it a false value, so volume is not equal. Right now, it's this will give false by its own, but in the not, we invert it, makes it true. So that's that. But mouse down just tells you when the mouse is down, pretty simple. Mouse X, right now I have to press this in the corner, so it'll always be the edge of the screen, which is negative 240, and this will be whatever it is. Like if I move it up here, 94. If I move it down here, negative 180 here. So this basically just tells you where the mouse is. If I had this hooked up to an actual thing and I put my mouse on the screen, it would be easier to tell, but you get the gist. Set mode to draggable. If we actually, so if I've been dragging the cat around, but if we go into full screen, which is how it's actually going to be played, we can't drag it. But if we set the drag mode to draggable, we can drag it, and the player will be able to drag it. This is very limited uses because oftentimes it's hard to contain the player this way because the player can just drag it wherever they want, and there's not much way to stop that. But if you want to use it, sure. It's not very reliable. Loudness goes up, and if I don't talk, it's very low. So that's that. Timer says how long I've been in the thing since the green flag was pressed. This is a good way to make like games that require a timer. You subtract a variable from timer, which is confusing, but yeah. So this just shows how long it's been since the last flag was clicked. Reset timer sets it back to 0. So right now it's 2, 0. When you hear people say thing of thing block is so useful. This is thing of thing block. So basically so let's say you have like this sprite only variable, which we'll get into later. It'll show, you could see the value of it in the other sprite. And let's say we make this a sprite, which is like sprite 2, we could see the direction and everything about it without even going into it. So it's really, really useful. Current year, like time games, if you want to subtract something, like say how old you are, you subtract like the year you were born from like current year. And yeah, like current year 2024. Current month, 2, February, date, February 23rd, day of the week. I would expect it to say Wednesday or Monday or whatever. Hour, it does in military time, so it's 10 o'clock right now, but let's say it was past, like let's say it was 1 o'clock, it would say 13 o'clock. It does in military time. Minute tells the current minute. So it's 10:44, and second even, and yeah. And it also says days since 2000, which is literally the most useless block known to man. Like, I would get it if it was like days since a certain value, But days since specifically 2000, that's just not really that useful. Username, my username is that. Proper Abus Numers. Yeah. Proper Abus Numers just sells the username. Operators. Now we're into operators. Plus, pretty simple. 1 plus 1, 2. 2 minus 1, 1. Like 2 times 2, 4. 2 divided by 2, 1. Simple. Pick a random 1 to 10. Just pick a random number 1 to 10 or whatever value. 100 greater than 50, true. 100 less than 50, false. 50 equal to 50, true. 49 equal to 50, false. And let's take this. 50 equal to 50 and 70, it's like 67 equal to 70, false. It's like, so if just one of these is off, then they're both considered to be false. Or if one of them is true, then they're both true. Then they're both true technically then. So like, but if they're both not true, it's still gonna show false. Not, we showed that earlier, inverse the value. Join apple and banana. Get a value of apple and banana. Shows it there pretty well. Letter 1 of apple is A. Length of apple, 5 characters. Apple contains A, which it does. True. Mod. This gets the remainder of whatever you're dividing. So let's say I divide 5 by 2, 1. So I could get, so using the divide, I could get, so if I do floor, we haven't got to that yet, but round, so like if I round 2.9, it'll round to 3, 2.5, also to 3, 2.4 to 2, rounds to the nearest whole number. Abs, which basically the absolute, negative 10 goes to 10. Floor of 10, which basically 1.8 goes down to 1. Ceiling, 1.8, will always go to the nearest high number. Square root, you know what the square root is? Sine, it's very complicated. Cos, whatever, I'm not that good at this. Tan, this stuff you're not going to use that much except if you're recreating formulas like the distance formula. Asin, these are all very common. Acos, atan, in, log, that, 10 to the power of, I think, 90% sure. But yeah, that's that. That's those things. And now we go to variables. So let's show my variable. So these are like the volume stuff, but you can change them, hide them, show them, and change them accordingly. You can set them, change them. So they're like counters. They can be used as score counters, index, so many things. Or just things to keep track. So useful. Lists basically just store hello. List. Okay, mate, we'll come back to that. My blocks. We can add, basically it's like a custom block. So I can add labels, I can make it do something like, so let's say I just do this. It's kind of like a broadcast. Okay, I think this is glitched right now, but it's kind of like a broadcast. Normally the thing would show up here, and if we clicked on it, it'd be able to go, and for some reason the lists aren't working. Well, we'll do lists in the next one. Because lists are probably the most complicated one, more complicated than the my blocks. So my blocks are kind of just broadcasted if you use them differently. But yeah, so we'll do lists in the next one, and yeah. So anyways, guys, that's it for today. I hope you liked the video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.